It's our hope to distribute 1,000 bears in 2022. Please join us and provide comfort to kids in their time of need.
You're watching Rogers TV.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Welcome to HealthLink, a program connecting home, community, and healthcare. My name is Carol Merton, and today I am delighted to welcome to our program Deepha Romuwalt, who is a physiotherapist and also a co-owner, I guess that's a fair thing to say, with Proactive Physio Plus. Deepha, thank you for joining us. I know we're going to be talking about concussions and concussion management today, but I also am interested in hearing more about your clinic and your team. I know I attended an open house not long ago, and oh my goodness, things are just changing. So welcome to the program.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here, especially talking about concussion, which is so close to my heart. Yes, we did have an open house, and thank you for coming. This open house was more so to showcase. This is our second open house where we had expanded our clinic from about 2,000 to about 4,000 square foot. Our Owen Sound office. We do have another location at Sobel office. This expansion was mainly focused to have classes. So we do run Zumba classes, and we do run Kangoo classes, and some postpartum classes, as well as agility drills. So we do run those classes, and I hope you enjoyed trying those things.
Thank you, Deepha. And I know our producer will flash up images as we speak, but you have a team that works with you, and not just physiotherapists, but can you tell us about the whole team?
Sure. Yes, I have a lovely team to work with. Without them, this wouldn't have been possible. So we are we are 4 physio residents over here, and we do have occupational therapists, actually 2 part-time occupational therapists, because one of them is so focused with pediatric occupational therapy, and the other one works closely with me, Paul Henry. He works closely with me for concussion people. We are the partners in crime. So regards to concussion, and we do have, sometimes it is also related with nutrition. So that's where the naturopath, Dr. Jeremy Tolman, comes in play. He's with us as well, and with all the muscles and the tensions, how massage therapists can help. Kim Snell is our massage therapist. And we have to be athletic therapist as well. She's just on her way to get her certification done, and that's Roxy with us. So she's our athletic therapist who's working with us. And we do have Laura, who's a pedorthotist, and she works with us as well, just to do all the corrections right from the foot up that you want.
So anyone else on the team that we haven't mentioned?
Touch base, now that I'm blanking, it's drawing a blank on me, but I think other than that, we have 2 lovely PTAs that work closely with us as well. And my front office. Other than that, that's the team for us. Yeah.
That's quite a group that you've got working. It's really like a multidisciplinary approach.
That was the whole point when we started. We really wanted, because sometimes, even with concussion, sometimes you need a village of people to clear. And then our other working partners are also there, which is like outside the resources that we use.
So before we drill down into concussion, you're located here in Owen Sound. Whereabouts for people who are watching the program today?
We are at 1796 16th Street East. So just opposite Swiss Chalet. That's where we are, our Owen Sound offices. And in Sobel, we are at the medical center.
And you treat a variety of conditions, right? We're going to talk about concussions, but tell me a little bit more about the categories. And you also have all ages and stages of life that you take care of.
That is correct. Because just as I said, all four physios, we all have our niches. I basically go with neurological clients with Parkinson's and MS and stroke and concussion, of course. And I'm also vestibular therapist as well at our clinic. So that's, and the other entity that I treat is pelvic health, male, female, and anyone between small children too. I think for my pelvic health, I did have a 90-year-old client as well. So
Wow.
she did amazingly well.
Excellent. Excellent.
And everyone in between. And then we also treat people with prenatal and postpartum as well, post-childbirth. And for anyone right now, they also said, there's also resources. I have Sue Cool. She's a continence nurse, and she also helps out with pessary fitting. That's a new addition to our clinic that we have been doing. So
quite a mixture.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about concussions. And, why is concussion management so close to your heart?
Yes. Something you get a passion when it is so close to your heart because you have your own experience. That's what happened to me. So in 2000, I was hit by a car from behind is what I was told. Till today, I just remember leaving home and waking up at the hospital.
Wow.
So that was in 2000. And I was in a two-wheeler back home, and I did endure it's what we call as a subdural hematoma, like a bleed inside the brain. And I lost consciousness for a good 3 to 4 hours. And when I was taken to the hospital, they said that if I did not revive back, they'll have to do surgery. Young and healthy, I did revive back, but and I also broke my collarbone and my right elbow as well. So at that time, and I broke it, yes, I was healing, but with concussion stuff, I thought, okay, I'm a physio, I can't do physical stuff. But then with concussion, I did not think about it. And I went and did some data entry, looking at the screens for a long time. Naive, but didn't know anything about that and ended up having headaches for a good 3 years, I should say.
Wow.
And then I learned my own lesson, and now...
Yeah, sometimes we don't learn as well, I think, when we're healthcare professionals.
That's right.
The edges. So tell me, what is a concussion? How would you describe a concussion?
So a concussion is a force that's been kind of given to, the first thing we say is like to the head. And sometimes even you can kind of hit your body as well, and it kind of goes more like where the head is being hit against something, even for a heavy blow to the body or to the head. But mostly it's for the head. And that can occur to anyone and everyone and everywhere, right? In our society itself, it was first shown more to the sports people, like that was given such an importance. But just if you look at the statistics for grave bruise itself, I think we are at the higher rate with the elderly and their falls. Right? So with concussion, I'd say you and I have equal chances as we step out to slip and fall as well. Like we have probabilities that can happen. So it can happen to anyone and any time.
It's interesting you mentioned about falls, because sometimes we think of the impact of a fall like a broken bone or a bad bruise.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not always recognizing that concussions may be undetected right away. And we do have a high incidence of falls for sure. So how would a person know that they had concussion? What happens?
Yeah. So sometimes, as soon as you fall, yes, there is a bit of a shock. Like, say if you hit your head slightly or not at that time, you just fell and you're pretty much kind of like thinking, okay, I fell down, did I hit my head or not? But then the jarring would kind of tell you the next day, okay, are you having any dizziness, any blurred vision? At the time of fall, was there any loss of consciousness? 30-second, I'm okay, but somewhere between 1 minute to and about that, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm really thinking your brain needs a twist, right? Sometimes the other trouble is, again, sometimes people just don't go to the hospital. It's like, oh, well, I just fell and we hit the head and I'm feeling okay. So they try to self-manage. I've seen people go to the hospital only when self-management has failed, or somebody else tells them, hey, why don't you just go and check? Right? those are some things that, and sometimes there is a cognitive fog. Say the headache, the dizziness, and the blurred vision and the cognitive fog. Say somebody had, you and I, like sometimes we go to a different room and you think, okay, why did I come here? Right?
Yeah.
There are moments, and you already have those things. Now, with concussion, it's like almost like putting a lens on top of your eyes and it would just zoom it up.
So it makes it more. So does it matter how hard you hit your head or your body? Do you have to hit really, really hard to get a concussion?
Yes. Yes, as I said, this is that excessive blow to the head that happens. And sometimes with MVA too, say sometimes they didn't hit the head, but with your body hitting forward, it kind of the force transmits to the head as well. And at that time, the brain that is in a fluid called CSF that can just bounce back and forth. And that can give us a simple plain. I shouldn't say concussion is not simple, it is complex. Yeah.
So on one of the points that you sent to me, you talked about micro to macro aspects of concussion. Can you tell me what that means?
Yeah. So for this, again, you really have to see like who hits it and how they are hitting it. Say, for example, if I just will start with a sports concussion tip, like say somebody had a concussion in sport and then, okay, they recognized it, they rested, but they recognized it as they are healing, as they're going for another game, say they fell again one more time, then there is a dominoes effect. So that'll be like, so this micro thing when they don't give that time to heal and then they're kind of going about the daily thing. And at that very spectrum, at the end of the spectrum, they get another one, it adds up. And sometimes people think, I had another client recently. She said she slipped and fell, like she was walking with her friend. She slipped and fell on the ice one time. She felt like a coconut hit the ground. That's how she felt it. And another time she just went to the basement and she got up and she hit at the ceiling at the top there. Like, it's a smaller crawl space and she hit it. So it was just simple things back to back. So it can be just a micro one, but then when it goes to macro, it is the dominoes effect that adds up. And then I have seen people come to me like a few years later, but then I feel like, should I have started rehab like almost 1 or 2 years ago with you, it's just they've gone a little bit far off. So for them to come back takes time. That's all. And in this fast-paced world, we just want to fix it, but it doesn't happen that easily. That's what I said. You can have a micro, you can make it macro. Depends on.
So let's say at any age, whether it's children or, youth, young adults, seniors, and they fall and hit their head and they go to emerge, what sort of tests will happen to prove? I mean, do you have to have something show up on the test to prove you've had concussion?
This is basically, that is one aspect of concussion that's really, really hard, unless and until concussion basically affects physical, emotional, and cognitive, right? And the other thing is it's not clearly known to others, like sitting opposite to them. It will not be clearly known. Sometimes, yes, like, say you had a cut, obviously, like, you fell and you cut something, that then yes, there is that part that is okay, there's swelling and there's concussion, you would have hit it. But sometimes you hit it and you don't even know, and when there is no physical symptoms, but emotional symptoms. Say, for example, previously they would have seen like a commercial that comes on for sick kids. It's like, oh, that poor kid. But after this, there'll be a lot of tears rolling in for no reason because they are kind of affected emotionally as well. Yeah. And sometimes people, like in the morning, they're okay, but then they'll try to manage their day. At the end of the day, even if their kids or spouse ask their questions, they get irritated so quickly. Right. So it's such a very subjective oriented. So sometimes when spouses or parents, they come there, I usually ask, if I say, so at the end of the day, say your mother is hit and if the children is asking, what do we have for dinner? It's really hard. But if they can say, okay, shall we eat chicken or fish? It's an easy suggestions, right? It's like a close-ended question will help them. You think it's little, but then it's a lot because that processing is going on, right? And then cognitive wise, as I said, memory fog, things to remember and things that's skipping. And then sometimes with all these memory fogs that's there, they're not even able to cope up, they start crying.
So do concussions show on x-rays or MRIs?
Unless and until if it's broken, it's really, really hard to show up. Now, that being said, I know I wanted to talk about the future prospects, like, what they're doing in future, but just want to touch base a little. It's something called metabolomics. Now, metabolomics is a large-scale study of small molecules, right? Now, I did attend a conference in Boston, and that's where they kind of gave this. It kind of sounds interesting, especially the tau proteins is what they're looking at. So I don't know if you have heard of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is like, constantly you get this concussion. It kind of leads on for people to have for the Alzheimer's disease and stuff. The tau proteins, simply put, they're all molecules that should adhere together to keep it together. Now they are kind of going into a brain cell and into a cell and looking at, okay, where are these tau proteins? Are they sticking there? Or actually this metabolomics is going to go to the cell waste basket. And when it goes to the cell waste basket, if they see more tau proteins here, they know that they are not attached where it should be.
So it can actually be a metabolic challenge.
Yes. Challenge.
Which is new, like you say, it's new, and a new way of looking at it for sure.
It's coming right now. More research has been done for the past decade or so. It's really a lot that's been going on, and the research is being done. They kind of say another 5-10 years we should kind of have a blood test for this. It's exciting, but it's coming. Yeah.
So you see patients, clients, I'm not sure if you call them participants, I'm not sure how you phrase it, but people come to your clinic and you would see them in different stages. You might see them in the very acute stage or right up to having had symptoms for several years. How do you assess someone first? And then after you've talked about that, maybe talk about how do you treat them?
Definitely. So say I see someone acutely. Lately, though, Carol, I really feel like people are getting to know now. As soon as it happens, parents are fairly good in bringing them, right? It's us who sometimes think, oh, it's just a fall, but fairly recently with all the awareness that's going on, parents just, so if it is acute, first I go with the symptoms, because everyone is so different. And with concussion, there are so many common denominators. That's another issue with concussion. So that's where the specialty comes in, right? Because the headaches and the dizziness and blurred vision could be tapped in with any other entities as well. Because you could, even if you have a hormonal imbalance, you're going to have a headache.
Yeah. Even
if you have a eye problem, you're going to have a headache and a blurred vision.
Yeah.
So we really kind of tap into, first thing I look for is the mechanism of injury. How did it really happen? Right? And then we kind of derive from that. Once a mechanism of injury, I know, okay, say someone went forward and they hit it, and then I kind of look more locally. Where did you actually hit it? If I put pressure, are you feeling it? So that's like more acute. And then first kind of we look at the local symptoms, then I kind of look at the broad symptoms. So, and then I think more than anything else, the first rule for them too is, when concussion, I usually ask people to follow the COVID rule. How we keep people at a 6 feet distance. So if you really keep your hand over here in front of your eyes, just try that, Carol. Keep your hand right in front of your thing. It's hard for you to see your hand, isn't it?
Yeah.
But now keep it far off. It's easier for you to focus.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's something I'd say, okay, even if you're sitting at a dinner table, don't try not to look people so close. Try to keep them at a king or a queen's eye view. It's a simple thing, but it does make a difference. So that's where I start. So that's the acute, and then I do myofascial releases and mobilizations if need be. Now, the second thing is, next thing I would go to symptom-based. Okay, do they have more headaches? Do they have more, Or if are they waking up with headaches? Headaches means that's a different entity. Where do they feel it? How do they feel it? What gets better? So we go with the symptom base. Now, if it's a chronic client, say they had this few years ago and then they've been adding on and now they're slowly seeing everything that's getting worse, then I don't start this route. I kind of have to go from the back channel. It's like, okay, what is the most affecting you now? Like, is it the balance or is it the cognition part? Now, if it's more cognition, that's where I bring in my OT to come in. And if I see just history taking is very, very important when it is a long-standing concussion client, that's it. Because by this time, they would have started living their life by coping in different ways, like, whatever lifestyle, because they had to go on with life. And I've seen so many people.
Have you had people who have come in for an assessment and are actually shocked to find that absolutely a concussion is confirmed by the assessment?
Oh, definitely. Sometimes people have left in tears. They said, I felt, listened, and now I can connect the dots.
Yeah.
Those are some of the words. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So other symptoms that people may have, you've mentioned a few. Do you find that there are people who have, symptoms like nausea, symptoms like fatigue, unsteadiness when they're walking? Those would be presenting
As well, yes. Sometimes some people kind of feel like I'm walking, but I'm on cloud nine. Like, not that elated feeling of cloud nine. It's like I don't feel the ground. That's when I know, okay, even the ear system has been affected because of that. Because of concussion, they don't give the body the time to heal. The body kind of copes with it, and one system taps onto the other system, just like how I said the dominoes effect, right? The eye, the ear, the neck is huge, and they have a specific equation that they should follow. And then once that equation is kind of, going sideways a little bit, the body was great to adjust, but it's really hard because at one time it's going to say no. I don't know if you can see the picture at the back.
Yes. Yeah.
I usually tell people, like, if you see the head, it's the lymphatic system. Like, it just has from head to the neck over here. It has, if you really, I don't know if you can zoom in, there's about like 29 glands and nodes that's there.
Yeah.
I explain to people how those microcirculations are very important. And the next picture kind of shows how the eye is related to the brain. And then I have another picture there for the ear system.
Yeah.
How to tap
it all feeds in for sure.
Exactly.
Now, in the early part of the program, you talked a little bit about computer work and data entry. I'd like to know more because, with concussion, people think, okay, well, maybe I just won't be so physically active or I won't play sports or whatever. I would, to sit down and watch TV or enter or watch a YouTube. Tell me more about the effect of using screens on people who've had concussions.
That's a great question, Carol. That's something, sometimes people are like, of course, Dr. Google sometimes say, don't see screen at all, put it in a dark room. Like, I'd say don't go too much dark in adaptation, right? Because you're not in the dark at all times. You have to come out and see, right? So I always say, put some light. So lighting is very important. Right. And then say if you're going to spend some time, I know sometimes like, what do you do? Like, okay, you can't do physical. What do you do? I always tell people like you can have some light behind your screen, like, instead of focusing so that you reduce the glare.
Yeah.
The major thing is limitation and moderation, right? How you take the phone and then you keep on scrolling. I say, okay, when you take the phone, you will put on 15 minutes limit to you that.
Okay.
Right.
So it has an impact on the brain, right?
Oh, definitely. And the other thing too is where you keep it, right? Because when I do just the basic eye testing, like of course when it goes beyond my scope of practice, I send them to the neurooptometrist. Sometimes I do have to send them to the neurooptometrist just to see how they're reading, because there are some students with me and reading gets harder. And then when they get closer to the exams, they get anxious because they're not able to read, they're not able to understand, they're not able to process. Right. So at that time, I do send them, refer them out for the neurooptometrist just to say, hey, I'm seeing this. Can you And then true enough, they'll have those issues, right?
Now, on the information you shared as well, you've got the Exodus route with a question mark. That captured my curiosity. Tell me a little bit more. We've got about 5 minutes left in the program. So what's the Exodus route?
So the Exodus route, I don't know how many people know this story. So people would have left Egypt and then they could have gone to the Promised Land in about 4 days or something like that. But they went for 40 years, right? So you could go from point A to point B just straight like this, or you could go from point A to point B all the way around, right? So when you don't give time to heal for your body, you're going to have the Exodus route.
So you can actually slow down your recovery.
Yes.
Not slowing down and give yourself time.
Yes. People, they say they fell and say somebody fell, okay, and then they hit the head. That weekend, if there is a gathering in your house, either, okay, you see if you can put it off for another week. If not, try to delegate. Try to, move things around. So you're not giving that body to rest. And if there is something, sometimes it's like, I don't want to say no to it. Yes, but saying no to it sometimes is going to make them feel better. If you give that body the time to rest, body is amazing. It just heals. But then once it heals, you can even take the whip to make it work. Like,
And I think
yeah.
Yeah. With a broken arm or a broken leg, you're in a cast, it's really obvious.
Obvious, yes.
With a concussion, it's a little bit more tricky. You don't see swelling, you don't see bruising, you don't see a cast.
Yes.
And so what would you say to people who have to explain to their family what's happening? Because it would be pretty tricky. What can you see?
Yes. That's really hard because some of my people, even at work, because they wouldn't be ready to go to 8 hours of work. So I would have moderated them to go back to 4 hours. But then when they go out, obviously because they look good. It's another problem. People do look good, right? And then they think, so I say, you cannot explain everything to everyone. But just say that processing is difficult, right? And then the same thing with family members, especially your spouse can understand that, but maybe a person outside the family, they'll think, what's wrong with her, right? But then probably at the end of the day, the processing is very difficult for the spine. So that's when I tell people, it's like, just say, I got a concussion, I just have to rest. And I have limitations. As simple as that. Just tell that.
So rest is therapy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rest and healing. Yeah.
Yeah. To allow that healing to happen. Your recommendation is if anyone isn't sure whether they are suffering from and have the impact of a concussion, to go for the assessment, at least go for an assessment.
The assessment, yes.
To have someone
there, we can direct you, whether you need it like this, or sometimes I can send you home with stuff. If this is what you need to do.
Yeah. Deepha, this has been so informative, and certainly the new trending around concussion management is really, really important, I think, for people to be aware, not to underestimate the impact of concussions on everyone's lives. So thank you for coming and being on this program and sharing this information. I look forward to further adventures to seeing you as you continue to grow your team. So thank you for the time.
Thank you. Can I just add one last thing?
Yeah.
My one little request is I would like everyone to have a baseline testing done, whether they fell or not, before the concussion. That was something I was going to really, really emphasize. People should know where they are, like either with physical or cognitive activities, to their practitioners. We have a baseline testing done in case you have a fall and a concussion. We know where to pick you from.
Yeah. Great idea.
Yes.
Take care, Deepha, and again.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.